Hi, my name is Caroline Settle, and I'll be talking to you today about happiness and the importance of maintaining a positive attitude. While I was writing this speech, I decided to ask a few of my friends to describe me using 5 adjectives. Although there were many repeated answers, such as caring, or that I'm a know-it-all, thank you, Anna, the only word that each of my friends used was happy, or some corresponding synonym. But this begs the question, what is happiness? Is it just an emotional response to increased levels of serotonin in our brain? Or is it caused by something more intangible than that? And if it is caused by something more, how do we obtain this for ourselves and how do we keep it? So, since I mentioned that I am a bit of a nerd and a know-it-all, let's start by talking about brains. The human brain is essentially one giant processor. This means that it can only focus on one train of thought at a time. And if you don't believe me on this, then I dare you to try to take a calculus final with the song What Does the Fox Say stuck in your head. You'll be thinking about one thing, and it will not be math. So since our brains are hardwired to think about one thing at a time, this means that we constantly have a choice of what we want to spend our mental resources on. We constantly can decide for ourselves whether we want to focus on things such as pain, or anger, or worry, or if we want to focus on things that can make us happier. My mantra in life, which I learned from my mom at a very young age, is that we can always choose to be happy or sad in our lives. But why would anyone choose to be sad? The answer is, it's because it's easy. It may be easy to have a pity party for yourself, to choose to wallow in your suffering and not focus on helping yourself. And honestly, I would be lying if I stood up here and told you that I'm happy all the time, because I'm not, and my friends out there know that I get stressed, I get mad, I worry, especially right now. We're all human. We all have emotions. But I can assure you that life is so much better, so much more vibrant when you choose to be happy. But how do we continue to make the choice to be happy all the time? Well, it takes perseverance. Although it may be easy to claim that you're a victim of your circumstances, or claim that all your troubles are based on outside forces or the fault of other people, this only leads to a downward emotional spiral and leaves us emotionally disengaged and prevents us healing. One of the best examples to illustrate the importance of a positive attitude is found in John 5, 1-18 in the Bible. To paraphrase, Jesus has traveled to a pool that allegedly has healing powers, where he meets a man lying on a mat who is paralyzed. When he questions the man about his situation, the man responds by simply explaining all of his troubles and not focusing on the good things in his life. This is very similar to us focusing on our problems instead of the ways we can fix said problems. Jesus responds by simply telling the man to pick up his mat and walk. This simple statement causes the man to completely change his mindset and go from thinking about negative things in his life to more positives. And what did he do? He picked up his mat and he walked away. But how do we go about doing this in our own lives? It may be very difficult if we don't have a divine figure standing in front of us telling us to metaphorically flip the switch between anger and sadness to happiness. Well, the best way to do this is to change what you're focusing on. Focus on things that make you happy, not things that make you sad. A good way to do this is find something you're passionate about, or something that excites you, and think about this instead of other things. Another necessity in happiness is the ability to forgive yourselves for mistakes you've made in the past. If we continue to dwell on these, it just leads to us staying stagnant in our pain and not healing. Forgiving ourselves releases us from our pain and suffering that those mistakes caused in the first place. One of the most common misconceptions about happiness is that people believe that they cannot be happy when there's so much pain and suffering in the world. However, human beings are hardwired to feel empathy for others. This means that we constantly can tell the emotions of those around us. So, for example, if you're with a group of happy people, you'll feel happy. If you're with a group of people who maybe aren't as happy, you won't be as well. However, the same principle works in reverse. If you're happy, you'll help cheer up those around you. But if you're sad, you'll only bring them down. One of the best ways to improve the situation of the world can be just a simple smile. A simple smile can brighten your small corner of the world. So why wouldn't you? Happiness is a luxury in good times, but in times of pain and suffering, it is an absolute necessity. This brings me to why I chose to speak about this topic today. Carl Jung has a quote that says, "The word happiness would lose its meaning if it were not balanced by sadness." It is the contrast between the two that allows us to have a full appreciation of happiness. There's someone that I wish I was able to introduce to you today, but unfortunately I'm not. This is my dad, Thomas Benjamin Settle. He was an aerospace engineer, and I seem to have inherited his love of building things and engineering. He was a sailor. He loved to be out on the water. But most importantly, he was absolutely the best daddy I could have wished for. I was the most important thing in his life. I remember when I started high school, my mom and I thought he was crazy because he was just bringing home all kinds of college research every night, bringing home new things about engineering programs and equestrian teams and college rankings. And we thought he was crazy because I had all the time in the world to prepare, it seemed like. I was just a freshman who needed to be thinking about college. But thinking back, it's almost as if he knew that he wouldn't be there to help me make the decision when the time came. On October 14th of my freshman year, my dad died very suddenly of heart failure, of cardiomegaly, which is the technical term for an enlarged heart. And I like to believe that it was because he loved too much and his heart was too big. I can't tell you exactly how I felt after learning that he had died. I'm sure it was shock and grief and pain, but I don't remember anymore. And I remember there was one point a couple weeks after where I had a realization. I realized that this was the absolute worst my life would get. And that wasn't just me being a melodramatic freshman. My life would never be as bad as it was at that point. And right after I realized that I had two choices. I could choose, which could have been the easier choice, to continue thinking about all the sadness in my life, about death, about pain. Or I could choose to focus on the fact that my life was only going to get better from there. It was only going to get better from there. And if you ask anyone who knows me that I've met before or since then, I think they'd be able to tell you which choice I made. Some might even go so far as to say that I maybe picked up my mat and walked. Thank you.